Hi there, and welcome back to Triplicate, and we're going to do something a little bit different in this video. And this was prompted by Angela forwarding me on an advert she'd been sent for solar panels. Now, we looked at solar panels and got a couple of quotes, and we were sort of told our roof was the wrong size and the wrong shape and pointing in the wrong direction, but these were people who really weren't interested in fitting fewer than 9 or 10 panels at a go. And this advert was talking about 4 or 5 panels. So I thought, well, we probably could get 4 or 5 panels on. And they're also talking about battery storage, which would be very interesting to us for reasons I will go into later on. So I decided to have a look and see whether it would actually be worth us fitting any solar panels, even a few. So we get our energy from Octopus, and we have a smart meter, and it will give you some graphs like this, and it will tell us what we've used the last week and so on and so forth. In addition, we can download our smart data, and we set a start date. No, don't want to do that, takes ages. I've already done it, but when we get our data, it comes like this. So it's half-hourly intervals, and that gives you the amount of kilowatt hours you've used in that half hour. The trouble is, this time format is not very useful to certainly any spreadsheet I have, so I had to go in and start writing code to interpret it and do a little bit of processing on it. However, just for a quick starting point, I've just done a graph of the first column and ignored the dates, and it looks like that, which is kind of not very helpful. So the first thing I did was to sum up each day and actually have a graph per day, not per half hour, because there are 25,678 data points there. So if we go to the daily one, here we go, that's a bit more useful. So what can we see? Well, here and here is winter and here is summer, and we see there's not a lot of difference between the two, mostly because all our heating and hot water is produced by gas, which we're not looking into here. So it goes up a bit in winter, and but not a great deal. And this here is where we were away on the boat for 6 weeks, and we were basically not home in summer, so the only thing that was on was basically the fridge freezer. So that's what that uses. And hey, what's going on here? Suddenly we get into January this year and we have huge, great big spikes. Well, that's on account of this guy, our very shiny, very nearly new electric Vauxhall Corsa, which we are very pleased with, and I should really, I suppose, do a video on at some point in the future. But for now, we're not going to take into account vehicle charging for reasons I will explain shortly. Okay, so while I was preparing this data, I also thought we'd just look at weekly usage. Here we go. So that is kilowatt hours per day averaged over the weeks. And again, we can see it goes maybe up to 12 in particularly cold weather. There we go, that was December 22 when it was very cold, so we did 12 or 13, and down to maybe 5 or 6 in particularly warm weather. In summer, 2 to 1, and again up here we're talking about charging the car. And I also did monthly. Let's find that. So yeah, the top one is 12.22 when it was cold, and the bottom one, ignoring July and August because we were away, is 5. Okay, there are a certain amount of green cred for having solar panels and generating your own electricity, but I think I am going to be, for the purpose of this video, hard-nosed and say, well, is it going to save us any money? So for that, I guess we need to know what we are paying for our electricity. Again, we're with Octopus, and we are Intelligent Octopus Go, which is a policy, pricing, rates, whatever, tariff, that's the word I'm looking for. And we get, we're paying 26p per kilowatt hour for most of the day, and between 11:30 at night and 5:30 in the morning we're paying 7.5p a kilowatt hour, and that's when we charge the car up. So the car has a 50 kilowatt hour battery, so that means it costs us £3.75 to charge the car up, out of which we get about 180 miles, so that's less than tuppence per mile to run the car. Now of course, if we go any distance we have to charge it up at a public charging point, which is probably the best part of 10 times that, but mostly we can get away with charging at home. So our car is very cheap to run, and that's why I am not taking the car into account when I'm thinking about solar panels, because we charge it up in the night when the solar panels are off. Okay, so how much power do we get out of a solar panel? I think that's the next thing we want to know. Well, according to the eco experts, a 350 watt solar panel, which is peak power and which is about standard size, produces 265 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. But of course it doesn't produce it constantly throughout the year. It depends very much on the seasons, especially in the north of England, the northern latitudes hereabouts. Some more Viridian Solar, I think are solar panel people, give us some hours of sunshine. This is London, but it's near enough to, we're 200 miles north of London. So here it's just over 1, it's just below 1 in December to just over 7 in June. So that's 7 to 1, 8 to 1, depending on the month. So what I am going to do is I am going to work on a monthly basis. So if we go back into our spreadsheet, there we have it, those are consecutive months. So we peak at around 11 on a very cold December, and we drop to just under 6 or so, and that's June, and then the July and August we were away, so that's wrong. So I might call July and August 5, going up to maybe 10 and a half in an average year, and assume it drops off reasonably linearly between. Right, so let's do some sums then on a month by month basis and see how much of our electricity usage we would get out of a given number of solar panels. Okay, found another good website, National Energy Action. Got some good graphs and information. So first thing, they've got this map of how much solar energy you get depending on where you are in Britain. So I'm taking sort of London values, and if I look here, we're about here, which is sort of 1 down from London, so 950 instead of 1,000. We're about 5% down on London values. So I've adjusted our amount we get relative to that, and this is a good one. This tells us what we would get per month. Again, it's London, but I'm only using the relative values, so I'm saying, say, December at the bottom is 1, and June and July are 8, and I'm just approximating some values so I get some useful readings, so I can estimate how much our solar panels are going to produce for each month of the year. Again, I'm just assuming each month is the same over the month. Of course, it's easy, it's all back of an envelope calculations, this. So if we then feed those values in to a little bit of software. Okay, we have here the number of panels, and we're trying to see how much we're going to make a month. So here we have January through December, and solar is what we would expect our panels to produce, and used is what we would expect to use, looking at our data helpfully supplied to us by Octopus. So you can see in December's our worst month, we use 0.15 kilowatt hours. These are average in a day, so 0.15 kilowatt hours a day we get out of our solar panels, which I think is probably quite generous, and we use 11, which is not a lot. And in summer, sort of June and July, we're getting 1.7 kilowatt hours out of one solar panel, and we're using 5.5. So let's put in 5 solar panels and run this again. So now in summer we are getting more than we use, and winter we're still not getting very much. And if we put 10 solar panels, which no way we have room for, but we'll have a look anyway, we're actually producing twice what we use. However, the situation is more complicated. Now, even ignoring for now our cheap nighttime rate we have for charging the car up, so saying we're paying 26p per kilowatt hour, it does say somewhere else on this website, take it from me please, if we are generating more power than we're using, the Octopus are buying the excess off us at a paltry 8p per kilowatt hour. So we've got to take that into account. We've also got to take into account that our solar panels generate the vast bulk of their energy during the middle of the day, in about a third of the day. So we've got to take that into account as well. So there it is. So that's a July, 2 days in July, a sunny day where you get a nice steady peak, and a partially cloudy day where it's up and down depending on the sun. So what I am going to do is going to take a chunk in the middle of the day and assume it's at a level then and 0 the rest of the time, because these are triplicate style back of an envelope calculations, so we're not accurate enough really to worry about trying to model weather and actual daylight amounts, the actual sunlight amounts hour by hour. Okay, so I've collected various things together in this little table just to make the coding easier. So here we have our monthly yield from our solar panel, which is 1 in December to 8 in June and July. You can see here we have our length of daylight, and we're going to use that to calculate how long our solar panels are on for, I've gone for 2/3 the actual day length. And finally here we have our usage, so that's kilowatt hours used in a day for each month, which I took from our measurements of our smart meter readings. Okay, and how much do we use at any time in the day? Well, all I've done is basically I've taken one of our spring day, and I've assumed one along there, one during the night, two during the day, and a peak when we're cooking our evening meal. And I've assumed that all the year round is that pattern, but all the readings go up in winter when we're using more. Again, I could come up with a monthly average pattern, but it's just not worth it. So that's our daily use for each hour, and it's just a scaling factor, it's not any actual number. So shall we see how this performs? Let's fire it up. So I've got the number of solar panels here, and we're looking at panels only. We will look at other things later. So there are 2 lines per month. We're looking at the top one here. So in January we're using 10 kilowatt hours per day, and the solar is producing 0.22 kilowatt hours a day, and the saved number is what we are saving from our solar panels, which is the 0.22 we're generating, and the last one is the exported. And you see with one solar panel here we never generate enough to need to export any. So shall we try 2 solar panels? Okay, so that's here again, and with 2 solar panels, once we get into April, May, June and July, we are exporting a little. And remember, everything we're exporting is at peanuts rate. It's virtually nothing. Okay, so our year totals here are, we've used 2676, our solar panels have generated 504, we've saved 492, this is kilowatt hours, and we've exported 11.7. So should we try 5? So now our solar, if we look at our totals, our solar is generating about half what we want, but we're only getting 800, and a third of what we're generating we're having to export because we're generating it all in the summer on nice days. So if we look at July, we're actually exporting more than we're saving, which is not what we want to happen. So that's 5 panels. So shall we look at 10 panels, which is what most of the people selling solar panels want to sell you if you've got enough room. So here we're actually exporting nearly twice as much as we're saving. So that probably doesn't seem a very economical thing to do. So now we're going to calculate some figures, some money figures of how much we're saving, and we're going to factor in the cost of our panels as well. Okay, and here's eco experts, the eco experts indeed, who are going to tell us how much we are going to pay for solar panels, and they give 6 at 4,200, 10 at 7,000 and 14 at 9,000. If you do the math, that turns out at £703 a panel. So we know how much a panel costs, and we know how many units, how many kilowatt hours we're going to save from having a solar panel, and we know that our electricity normally costs 26p per kilowatt hour, and we know we export it back at 8p per kilowatt hour, so we can calculate how long it takes us to recoup the cost of our solar panels. And I notice here it says time takes to break even 14.5 years. So okay, so let's add some costs per unit of electricity per kilowatt hour to our calculations. Okay, solar panels 1. So with one solar panel we don't export anything, and these are the kilowatt hours here we've just calculated, and here are the year costs. So we save £65.5, which is about 10% of what we use, and we don't export any because even in the middle of summer we're not generating enough electricity to supply the whole house. So let's have a look at 2 panels. And here we are exporting a little bit, and then remember we're only getting 8 pence a unit to export, so we're only making less than £1 from our exported. And we look up here, the payback years is 10.7 here, and for 2 it's 10.9. so we're actually, as an investment, it's worse for having 2 than for 1. So let's try 5. So now we're exporting £35, we're saving £212, and our payback time has gone up to 14.2 years. So if we fitted 10 panels, and bearing in mind we haven't room to fit 10 panels, we're looking at 18.6 years payback time. So okay, so assuming we didn't have an electric car and we had Octopus's EV and a solar panel price plan, which gives us 15p per unit exported. Well, with one solar panel it doesn't make any difference because we're not exporting anything. So let's real quick just put that onto 5 solar panels. So that's 12.6 years, so that pulls it down a little bit. And 10 panels, oh come on, 10 panels, 14.5 years, so it's a bit better, and I have actually plotted these results out. Okay, so here it is plotted out on a little graph. On the bottom we have the number of solar panels, and up we have the number of payback years, and especially with our EV plan it gets worse and worse as the number of panels increases. So and I notice on the solar plan with 10 panels it does indeed suggest it's 14.5 years payback times, and that verifies our calculations. Okay, so what have we learned? Well, for a start off, when we had some quotes for solar panels, apart from saying that we couldn't get enough solar panels on our roof, they were adamant we needed 9 or 10 panels, but we have found out that having 9 or 10 panels, just panels, is not very cost effective. And this is because solar panels generate all their power in sunshine and in summer when you don't necessarily need it, and the excess power, if we're using the grid or our electricity provider to store the excess power, that's not very economical. That is at best 50% efficiency, i.e. half the price, or 30% efficiency. However, if we go back to our little advert which sparked all this investigation, they're talking about a battery. Now that makes sense. You can store the excess power you generate in the day in your battery and use it gradually as and when you need it. Doesn't solve the problem of the fact that in winter you're getting nothing out of your panels, but it certainly would improve matters. However, with our very cheap nighttime rate, if we had a battery, we'd say, well, surely it would make sense to charge the battery up at about just over a quarter of the cost of our daytime rate, and use that during the day instead of our daytime rate. So that is going to make the calculations more complicated. So I think what was going to be a quick, simple, easy video has turned into quite a long investigation and is now going to be spread over 2 videos. Oh dear, a Mini's kicked off. So I'm going to leave it here for this video. Look in the description for links to all the websites I've referenced. And I will see you next time, probably for something different. So for now, it's goodbye from Triplicate. Goodbye.